Hi and welcome, I'm Andy Miocha and you are watching Anewz. Here are the headlines. Israel launches ground offensive in Gaza City. Palestinians scramble to flee. Russia launches massive strikes on Ukraine, killing and injuring dozens. The European Commission considers suspending visa-free travel for Georgians. Thank you for tuning in. Israel has launched its major ground offensive in Gaza City. The Israeli military says the operation began overnight and included 2 divisions, with a third expected to join. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said a powerful operation had been launched in Gaza City, which he described as Hamas's last major stronghold. A week ago, Israeli authorities ordered all residents of Gaza City to evacuate, warning that the military would operate with great force within the city. The families of hostages and other Israelis staged a protest outside Benjamin Netanyahu's residence in Jerusalem, urging the government to secure a ceasefire deal and ensure the release of hostages. Israeli officials say that of the 48 hostages still in Gaza, 20 are alive. Gaza's health ministry reports that more than 64,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli operations, while international monitors warn of famine in the territory. Israel currently controls about 75% of Gaza. A new report by a UN Commission of Inquiry says Israel has committed genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. It cites statements by Israeli leaders and the pattern of conduct by Israeli forces as evidence of genocidal intent. Israel's foreign ministry said it categorically rejects the report, denouncing it as distorted and false.
A United Nations Commission of Inquiry has concluded that Israel has committed genocide in Gaza. The report also states that top Israeli leaders, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, incited these acts. Israel has strongly rejected the findings, calling them false and biased. The 72-page report highlights mass killings, aid blockages, forced displacement, and the destruction of a fertility clinic. These examples support the Commission's genocide finding.
All states are obligated to use whatever means within its power to prevent the commission of genocide. And so we urge member states to ensure accountability for any crimes that have been committed and prevent further crimes from being committed, not just in Gaza, but the entire occupied Palestinian territory.
While the UN itself has not officially used the term genocide, pressure is growing for it to do so. The Commission, though independent, adds its voice to others, including human rights groups, who have reached similar conclusions. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Daniel Meron, dismissed the report as a scandalous. He claimed it used misleading statistics, weak data. Israel also accused the Commission of not mentioning the word Hamas in report.
The report relies entirely on Hamas falsehoods, laundered and repeated by others. These fabrications have already been thoroughly debunked, including in an independent, in-depth academic study by BESA.
Meanwhile, the European Commission announced it will propose new sanctions on Israel. These include suspending certain trade agreements. The measures are expected to be confirmed on Wednesday.
Still in the Middle East, Israel said it struck a military infrastructure site in its latest attack on Yemen's Houthi movement at the Red Sea port of Hodeidah. Tuesday's attack came hours after the Israeli military issued an evacuation order for the port. A TV station affiliated with the Houthis said that 12 strikes targeted the port's docks. The Houthis have in the past fired missiles towards Israel and attacked ships in the Red Sea, in what they describe as solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with the Qatari Emir and the country's foreign minister a day after Doha hosted a summit that saw Arab and Islamic countries denounce Israel, over its airstrikes on Hamas leaders in Qatar last week. Following the meetings, Rubio said that the U.S.-Qatar security partnership was reaffirmed and thanked Qatar for its mediation efforts to broker a peace deal between Israel and Hamas. The Qatari Foreign Ministry said that defense cooperation was on the agenda following last week's strikes.
As President Trump said in his call to His Highness and reported in the readout, and what Secretary Rubio said today, this attack, of course, expedites the need for renewed strategic defense agreements between us and the U.S. and certainly, but it's not something new per se, but certainly.
Now to Ukraine, where Russian forces carried out a series of strikes across the country, killing at least 7 people and injuring dozens more.
In Zaporizhzhia, latest Russian attack killed a 41-year-old man and injured 20 others, including 4 children, damaging apartments and homes.
All windows were blown out and they killed a man.
In Kharkiv, a Russian drone hit the National Pharmaceutical University, injuring 4 people and setting the roof on fire.
I heard the sound right over my head. I was sitting at my computer and my intuition told me to get up. I literally made 2 steps and then the chandelier fell. There was an explosion and the chandelier under which I had just sat fell down. That's what happened.
Authorities say some incoming drones were shot down, but several caused civilian injuries in the streets. Kharkiv has faced repeated Russian drone and missile attacks, lying just 25 kilometers from the border with Russia. Attacks also struck Donetsk, Sumy, Kherson, Mykolaiv, Dnipropetrovsk and Kiev regions, causing casualties and damaging homes, farms and infrastructure. Over the past 24 hours, 7 civilians were killed and 51 injured.
EU and NATO countries have got to stop buying Russian oil immediately, US President Donald Trump said before departing for his UK state visit. Trump added that Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky will have to make a deal and that Ukraine is in serious trouble. Speaking on his unprecedented second state visit to the UK, Trump hinted at talks on trade, saying London wants to refine the already reached trade deal and that he is inclined to help them. Donald Trump's 3-day UK state visit is set to mix royal pageantry with high-stakes talks as London and Washington prepare new trade and energy deals alongside discussions on Ukraine and defense.
The 3-day visit will run from Tuesday to Thursday. Trump and First Lady Melania will be welcomed at Windsor Castle by the King and Queen alongside the Prince and Princess of Wales before taking part in 4 royal ceremonies, including a carriage procession and a lavish state banquet. But this visit isn't just about pomp. The US and UK are expected to announce major agreements on technology and civil nuclear energy, including multi-billion-pound projects to power AI data centers. The United Kingdom also hopes to finalize steel and aluminium tariffs as part of a wider trade deal. On Thursday, Prime Minister Keir Starmer will host Trump at Chequers, where they will discuss Ukraine, defense cooperation and the economy. This visit comes as Britain has already secured over $1.25 billion in fresh US investment, with tech giants like OpenAI expected to announce more deals during the visit. It's a high-stakes moment for Starmer, who hopes the royal pageantry will strengthen ties with Washington and turn this rare second state visit into a political and economic win. This is Zaina Ferrazadeh for Anewz, London, United Kingdom.
On Trump's UK state visit, we're talking with Mitro Kavun of the Dignitas Ukraine, coming to us from New York. Welcome, thank you so much for being with us. Now, besides the trade and energy cooperation, wars in Ukraine and Gaza are presumed to be high on the agenda. There seems to be less and less differences in the views of London and Washington on Ukraine, and more when it comes to Gaza. What would you say could be expected of the talks on those two conflicts?
Hello, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I think those two are certainly top of mind for discussions between President Trump and his visit to the UK, as these are very important issues on the agenda. These are high priority items for his visit, I am sure, as are economic deals as well that are in the talks. I think the Ukraine is certainly one of the top issues and will be discussed as Russia is ramping up the attacks, and there are discussions about increasing the sanctions on Russia in that sense, in response to their continuous escalation in Ukraine.
Well, the visit itself comes at an interesting time for both the US and the UK. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has, over the past couple of weeks, been forced into a major cabinet reshuffle and has sacked his ambassador to Washington over ties with a convicted sex offender. Over in the United States, the politics scene seems deeply divided following the killing of a famous conservative commentator. What kind of an impact do you see Trump's visit having on the domestic politics?
I think it certainly comes at a time where there is a need to show continuous international cooperation and leadership in the areas like that. Unfortunately, what happened in Utah is dividing the country, the Republicans and Democrats. There is some blaming going on between the parties, and in my opinion, there's some level of Russian influence that is increasing the divide in that respect through the political violence.
Do you expect any major announcement being brought during the visit regarding either Ukraine or the energy cooperation that was briefly announced regarding the nuclear reactors?
It's hard to say what exactly will be announced. I'm sure there will be some announcements. What is the level of detail in those announcements? Those are still unknown, as there is a lot of discussions underway. Other analysts also reported that the conversations are happening, but what is the verdict of these conversations? It's unclear at this moment.
Well, thank you for joining us and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you very much.
The European Commission is weighing sanctions against Georgia's leadership and may suspend the country's visa-free travel arrangement with the bloc. EU spokesperson Anita Hipper told reporters that Brussels had already reduced political engagement and halted financial aid to the Georgian government while stepping up support for civil society. She added that measures under consideration include sanctions and the suspension of visa-free travel. Relations between the EU and Georgia have deteriorated since the bloc accused Tbilisi of backsliding on democratic principles.
Stefan.
Tensions have resurfaced between Georgia and Ukraine after Tbilisi announced the detention of 2 Ukrainian citizens in connection with an explosives case. Georgia's Prime Minister Irakli Kobahidze has accused Ukraine's security services of involvement. Arnini Nikolaishvili has the details.
Georgia's Prime Minister Irakli Qobakhidze has made strong accusations against Ukraine's security services following the discovery of explosives allegedly smuggled into the country. Speaking to journalists, Qobakhidze said a person involved in the case had confirmed the explosives were imported on the instructions of Ukrainian special services, calling the incident very regrettable. He also linked the case to previous statements by Ukrainian officials who had expressed hopes of opening a second front in Georgia, but stressed that Tbilisi continues to maintain what he called a unilateral friendship regime with Ukraine in light of its ongoing war. The State Security Service of Georgia and the Ministry of Internal Affairs have confirmed that 2 Ukrainian citizens were detained in connection with the incident. According to the authorities, a Mercedes-Benz truck with Ukrainian license plates entered Georgia on September 10 through the Sarpi checkpoint, having traveled via Romania and Bulgaria. Upon inspection, officials say that they discovered 2.4 kilograms of the explosive substance hexogen hidden in concealed compartments. The agency added that materials indicated the explosive's final destination was Tbilisi, specifically a residential building in the Avlabari district. The Ukrainian government has not yet issued a public response to the Georgian allegations, and international observers are watching the developments closely. Relations between Tbilisi and Kiev, traditionally friendly, have faced strains in recent years, particularly against the backdrop of Russia's full-scale invasion in Ukraine. It's Nini Nikolaishvili reporting from Tbilisi, Anewz.
Armenia's central bank says the Trump route for international peace and prosperity is positively perceived by markets. The bank's governor noted that the first U.S. tranche of $145 million in assistance to develop it is too small to impact the economy immediately, but stressed the project's long-term potential. The connectivity plan is designed to unlock trade routes, attract investment, and improve the business climate. Azerbaijan and the United Arab Emirates have signed a declaration on comprehensive strategic cooperation. The two presidents, Ilham Aliyev and Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, highlighted growing collaboration in energy, trade, transport, and renewables.
Relations of Azerbaijan and United Arab Emirates are built on a foundation of brotherhood and friendship, and they are developing very successfully. President of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev, said this in an expanded meeting with President of the United Arab Emirates, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan.
Biz her zaman beynəlxalq təşkilatlarda birbirimizin yanındayıq, birbirimizi dəstəkləyirik.
We always stand by each other in international organizations. We support each other. We are very pleased with the recent mutual investments. Cooperation in the oil and gas sector is deepening.
Bugün imzalanmış sənədlər arasında nəqliyyat sektorundakı əməkdaşlıq böyük perspektivə malikdir.
Among the documents signed today, cooperation in the transport sector has great prospects. We are particularly grateful to your country and your country's companies for providing us with great support in the development of renewable energy in Azerbaijan.
Bizə çox böyük dəstək vermişdilər. Birləşmiş Ərəb Əmirliklərinin şirkətləri burada bizim strateji tərəfdaşlarımızdır.
The companies of the United Arab Emirates are our strategic partners here, the main investors, and the construction and investment in the first solar power plant commissioned in Azerbaijan were made possible thanks to your country's support for us.
Bizə olan dəstəyi nəticəsində mümkün olmuşdur.
President of the United Arab Emirates, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, marked that trade turnover between UAE and Azerbaijan, especially in the non-oil sector, increased to $2.24 billion in 2024.
In July, our countries signed an agreement on comprehensive economic cooperation. This document has given a new impetus to our economic relations. Inshallah, it will have a great impact on achieving our common economic goals. We in the United Arab Emirates are interested in continuing to expand this cooperation, particularly in development, the economy, renewable energy, food security, culture, and other important areas, as these sectors promise great results for our future. Mr. President, we have a special and strong interest in strengthening and expanding our bilateral relations with your friendly country, and we wish to elevate them to a higher level. We are constantly seeking new opportunities for cooperation that will benefit both sides and contribute to sustainable development.
President bin Zayed also mentioned UAE's readiness to provide all possible support for the establishment of peace and security in the Caucasus region. The meeting was followed by a ceremony to exchange documents signed between the Republic of Azerbaijan and the United Arab Emirates.
Afghanistan's top diplomat has once again condemned last week's Israeli attack in Doha, voicing solidarity with Qatar. Our Tamim Bahis has the details in Kabul.
In a phone call with Qatar's Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Mohammed bin Abdulaziz Al Khulaifi, Afghan Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi called the strike on a Hamas delegation in Doha a violation of international law. According to Afghanistan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Qatari minister described Kabul's condemnation as a sign of brotherhood between the two nations. This latest exchange comes after last week's Israeli airstrike on Hamas's political office in the Qatari capital, which killed several members of the movement. The Afghan authorities formally denounced that attack as, quote, barbaric, accusing Israel of ignoring humanitarian and political norms while committing crimes without consequences. The Afghan government says it stands firmly with Qatar as tensions continue to mount across the region. Tamim Bahis reporting for Anewz from Kabul, Afghanistan.
Over 100 delegations from more than 60 countries gathered in Kazakhstan for a major interfaith dialogue event. The meeting of religious and political leaders is meant to address religion's role in peace building and uniting humanity. Our Fariza Kalimurzina reports.
Today, the international community is struggling to restore peace. This statement was made by Abdul Rahman Al-Zaid, Deputy Secretary General of the World Islamic League, during a meeting with President Tokayev in Astana. Al-Zaid also addressed the Congress of Leaders of World and Traditional Religions, which opened today, calling on the international community to end conflicts and unite for peace. This is the 8th Congress, considered one of the world's key ideological forums. This year, around 100 delegations from 60 countries are taking part, including religious leaders, politicians and representatives of international organizations. Among the expected guests are Pope Leo XIV, Vatican Secretary of State Cardinal Pietro Parolin and the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar Ahmad Al-Taib. They are joined by leaders from various religious communities around the world, including Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist and Protestant representatives from multiple countries. The organizers focus on the unifying potential of religions as a resource for finding global solutions. Key topics include the role of religions in preventing conflicts from the Middle East to Eastern Europe, ethical issues related to the development of artificial intelligence, combating youth radicalization and harmful content on social media, as well as overcoming digital inequality. At the end of the forum, a final declaration is expected to be adopted, along with the presentation of a multilateral action plan until 2033, a first in the history of the Congress. Against the backdrop of growing religious polarization, extremism and weakening international institutions, Kazakhstan is seen as a platform where over 130 ethnic groups and 18 religions coexist. President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev emphasized that preserving interreligious and intercultural harmony remains a priority for both domestic and foreign policy, as evidenced by the Congress being held for 22 years. Kazakhstan has taken part in peace building through initiatives like the Astana process on Syria, the C5+1 format, its time on the UN Security Council, and efforts to stop the spread of weapons of mass destruction. In line with this role, the 8th Congress is seen not just as a religious event, but as a platform to strengthen interreligious cooperation, where Kazakhstan continues to act as a mediator, promoting dialogue instead of pressure. From Almaty, Kazakhstan, Fariza Kalimurzina, Anewz.
Well, that's all we have for you for now. Thank you so much for watching and stay tuned to Anewz.